Alright, so the first recipe you actually want to start with is the blueberry lemon French toast casserole. But this is actually something I'm not going to show on film, but it will be on my blog so you can check it out. It's not a difficult recipe by any form or fashion. So check it out and make it because it's delicious. So the first recipe that will be on this video as a whole will be the salmon and then the beef en croute. Both of these recipes, as I said before, I've never made before. So what you want to do is you want to start by taking out your cream cheeses and your eggs and your butter so that everything can come up to room temperature so that it's easier to work with. Lastly, you'll want to get your puff pastry, which usually comes in 2 packs like this, like that. You want to be really careful with the puff pastry, and you don't want it to sit out longer than 40 minutes, and so you'll really kind of have to time when you're going to be starting versus when you take the puff pastry out. So the first thing you want to do is get started with your chopping. This is just a yellow onion, pretty standard. You're also going to be wanting to chop your garlic at the same time. So just simply mince it. Doesn't have to be finely chopped or anything. If you run out of room like I am, simply put it in a bowl beside. Alright, next you want to chop your garlic. So the easiest way to do that is to chop off the ends, and then you want to take your knife flat like this and just hit it, and it should just come straight off. Hints on the should. There you go. My hands are a little wet, so it's kind of sticking to my fingers. But there you go. Alright, so once you have your butter and your olive oil in there, I usually like to stick one piece of whatever I'm cooking to see if it's hot enough. You can see how it's starting to simmer right there, so that means that you are at the perfect temperature. Typically you want to put your onions in first and then your garlic, but for today, you know, I'm just going to do both because I put them in the bowl together. Normally you don't want to do that. I just have a small pan for right now because I feel like that's all I really need. But feel free to use as large of a pan as you would like. So I'm just going to saute a little bit of onions and garlic together. And then after that, once it becomes translucent, those onions, we'll add the spinach. Alright, so our onions are turning translucent, as you can see. The reason why you typically want to put the onions in first is you can see that the garlic is browning a lot faster. That's typically why you want to do it. But in this scenario, it's not that big of a deal. So now that our onions are browned, we're going to add the spinach. These will wilt down really fast. So I'm going to go ahead and put the whole bunch in there. Oops, lost one. Alright, so as you can see, this has broken down a lot. Spinach really does break down real fast. This probably only took about 30 seconds for it to break down. So once you get to about this texture with the spinach, you are ready to pull it. So we're going to go ahead and use this cup right here. Alright, so now we want to move on to the cream cheese mixture. In some recipes they don't use cream cheese. I personally want to because I like cream cheese in different recipes. So I'm going to be using a organic cream cheese, half a stick of butter, a Dijon mustard that is whole grain, so it's basically kind of like a deconstructed mustard. I have lemon juice and then some pepper. And so let's get started. So for this section, I'm actually doing it for 2 different en croutes. We're doing a salmon and then a beef, mainly because I like salmon and Jay hates salmon. So we're going to do a beef version as well. So this stuffing recipe is actually doubled. So on my blog, I'll have the recipe for just the single on croute. So we're going to be using 8 ounces of cream cheese that is set to room temperature. Dump that in there. Using half a stick of butter, which these conveniently come in half sticks. And this is salted butter. We are going to be using 1 tablespoon. My hands are greasy. Let me wipe my hands off real quick. The Dijon mustard. I'm going to be using just a little bit of this lemon juice. About half a tablespoon. You can do a little bit more if you want. Once that's all in, you also want to add some pepper. Just a couple sprays of pepper. You can add more if you want it a little more spicy. You can add salt at this time. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt, but remember that the butter is salted. So you're going to turn it on. Alright, so once your puff pastry has warmed up but is still cold to the touch, you want to go ahead and roll it out. Be careful of not ripping it like I did a few minutes ago. If you do happen to rip it, you can just keep a small thing of water by it and just stick your finger in and just lightly tap it and it'll come back together. So you just want to roll it out. On all the places that I saw, you want to roll it out to about a dime size. You don't want it too thin and you don't want it too thick. My piece of salmon is fairly small, and so I really don't need too much of this puff pastry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take my my salmon. I'm gonna lay it flat. I'm gonna go ahead and get out some of my mixture and just put that sucker on there. Gently, of course, because you don't want to rip it or anything. It's kind of hard to get on there, so just kind of work with it for a little bit. So once you have about however much you want, you don't want it to be too fat because you don't want it too moist inside. You're going to take your spinach mixture and just get a little bit of that. You can just use your hands to put that mixture on. Then you're going to top it. If you have a thinner salmon, you can see how one side's a little bit bigger than the other. So you want to do them opposite so that they stay even. Then after that, you're going to wash your hands real quick. Alright, so once you have that on, you want to be sure to salt the top, and you should have salted the bottom. I forgot to mention that. But then you're going to want to cut it to size. And so basically you want it so that it covers, but it doesn't cover too much. And so you can see that it stretches. So that side's pretty good. So these ends are pretty good, but you can see how much extra we have here. And so you'll want to kind of make an intent on how much you'll actually need. So I'm going to go ahead and chop that. And then go ahead and chop that. And so you can just chop the rest of that off. And you can actually use this for something else if you want. Just ball it up and cook it as is. Put a little cinnamon and sugar on it. So you'll want to open it back up, and then you're going to use an egg wash, which is basically just a whisked egg. And you'll get it in, and what this does is it helps seal the pastry dough shut. So you want to just wash it over your sides. Okay, so once you have the egg nice and washed, you'll take it and carefully fold it over like a little burrito. Like that. And then on these ends, you take the back side of your knife and you kind of push it in because you want to make sure it's pretty tight in there. And then you just fold it up. Fold it up nice and tight. Just do the same on the other side. Make sure it's nice and tight. If you have too much extra, you can always cut it off. So there you go. And then you will carefully, because your pastry dough may have stuck to the table, so make sure you're careful. You'll flip it over and you will put it onto a pan, and then we'll put an egg wash on top of it for just a nice browning on top. So I'm going to go ahead and do the beef one at this time, and then we'll put them on the pan together. So once you're done with arranging the puff pastry around your protein, you want to make sure that the seams are on the bottom, and then you're going to go ahead and do a light score all the way across. This is mostly just aesthetically pleasing. So you just do, you don't want to cut all the way through, so just really gentle brush strokes. And once you're done with that, you're going to take your egg again and just do a nice egg wash over top. This will just give it a nice browning. And we put this onto a greased pan. I just greased it down with some butter. So we're going to stick it in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes.